I never expected the end of my life to begin with a coffee mug, but that's exactly how it happened. A blue and gold ceramic mug my granddaughter painted in art class. Innocent streaks of color, a child's messy pride, slipped from my hand and shattered across the kitchen floor. That sound, sharp and final, was the last thing I heard before silence swallowed me. My name is Clara Mitchell, and I was 59 years old when I died. I lived a quiet life in a small Ohio town. Not the kind of life that makes headlines. Not the kind of life anyone would think remarkable. Retired from decades of nursing, I filled my days with simple things. Pruning roses in my little garden, working through crosswords with my morning coffee, or babysitting my 2 grandchildren, Emma and Caleb. My daughter, Rachel, lived just a short drive away, and her visits always felt like bursts of sunlight through my curtains. I had always been content with smallness, small town, small joys, small routines. But on September 11th, 2025, the world outside didn't feel small at all. The news was relentless, pounding through every headline, every anchor's voice. The assassination of Charlie Kirk had ignited a storm across the country. I wasn't a political woman by nature, but the venom I saw, neighbors spitting rage, families turning on each other, strangers online clawing like wild animals, left me sleepless. That night, I prayed until my knees ached. I prayed for the family of the man who was killed. I prayed for the one who pulled the trigger. And I prayed most of all for my country, because it felt like we were bleeding out from the inside. When dawn came, I dragged myself into the kitchen, weary but determined to go about my morning ritual. I reached for that mug, the one Emma had made me, and then searing pain. A hot, unrelenting poker of fire in my chest. My breath vanished. My body betrayed me. I remember the mug falling, the colors fracturing into shards on the linoleum. My knees buckled. The ceiling light blurred into a hazy star. My heart slammed one final time, and then stopped. But the end was not the end. I floated, impossibly, near the ceiling, staring down at the shell of myself sprawled across the kitchen floor, my hair, tangled and gray, splayed against the tile. My lifeless hand still curled toward the broken mug. For a moment, I thought only of Rachel. Oh, God, she'll hate seeing this mess, I thought, absurdly. Even death could not quiet a mother's worry. Then, slowly, the scene receded. My kitchen grew smaller and smaller, like I was drifting away through the wrong end of binoculars. The sound of the television still muttered in the living room, the endless arguing over politics. But even that noise dissolved. What replaced it was silence. Not the silence of emptiness, the silence of peace. I found myself drawn into a tunnel of swirling light, gold and rose and silver, like dawn clouds breathing. The heaviness I'd carried for years, the worry, the exhaustion, the ache in my knees, the grief of watching the world splinter, lifted off me like a coat I had worn too long. For the first time in decades, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't in pain. I was free. And then I saw him. There is no painting that captures him, no stained glass, no picture in a Bible storybook. Jesus wasn't light in the way of a bulb or a flame. He was light that felt like truth, light that felt like home. The very sight of him unraveled me. But the first thing I felt wasn't joy, it was sorrow. His sorrow. A grief so deep it pierced me more sharply than the heart attack ever had. It was the sorrow of a father watching his children tear each other apart. His thoughts entered me without sound. Clara, do you see? The light around us shifted, and suddenly I was standing with him, as though on a balcony overlooking the world. Only it wasn't buildings or cities I saw. It was hearts. The first was a family at a dinner table, a father red-faced with rage, a son, fists clenched, shouting back, a mother silent and broken as knives of words flew between them, not over ideas, but over politics. Hatred wasn't just present. It was alive, a living thread, binding and pulling them apart. The enemy does not need to break down the door when he is invited to the table, Jesus whispered into my spirit. I wept. Scene shifted again. I was no longer at that dinner table, but inside a church. The sanctuary was beautiful, old wood and stained glass glowing in the light. Yet the people inside stood in two angry groups, facing each other with glares sharp enough to cut. These were friends who had baptized each other's babies, buried each other's loved ones. Now they were enemies, not over faith, but over flags and politics. They use my name, Jesus said, and the weight of his sorrow pressed into my soul, but they do not carry my heart. I saw a crack split down the center of the church floor, a jagged chasm widening, threatening to swallow them whole. I wanted to scream for them to stop, to remember why they were there. But all I could do was watch. Then I was in a city. I didn't recognize which one. It could have been anywhere. People walked with their heads down, suspicion heavy in their eyes. Neighbors eyed neighbors like enemies. What side are you on? Who did you vote for? The questions screamed without words. And then I saw them, the shadows. Not horned demons, but smudges of cold darkness, like heat rising off asphalt. They hovered close to the angry whispering poison into ears. Every time someone's rage flared, the shadows grew stronger, feeding on the division. One clung to a man scrolling his phone. He read a comment, and his face twisted with fury as he typed a venomous reply. The shadow shivered with delight, feasting on his hatred. I cried out, Lord, what is this? His presence wrapped around me, sorrow and love braided together. This is the true war. Not flesh against flesh, but darkness feeding on division. The assassination you mourned, Clara, was not the cause. It was the symptom. A fever breaking on poisoned skin. His words cut deep. I saw it then. The poison river running through the nation. Every cruel word, every fractured family, every bitter argument added drops of poison until it became a flood. My children are perishing, he said, his voice trembling with grief. They fight for earthly kingdoms while forgetting my heavenly one. They cry for justice, but refuse forgiveness. They ask for victory when they should be begging for mercy. I fell to my knees. It's too much. It's too big. How can this sickness be healed? The light around me warmed, and his presence touched my heart. It begins small. It begins here. I felt his love burn inside me, fierce and tender. One person choosing mercy instead of being right. One prayer whispered for an enemy, one family turning off the screen and looking into each other's eyes again. Every act of forgiveness, every act of quiet love. It is living water in a poisoned river. I understood then. Healing didn't need to be grand. It needed to be faithful. Peace settled over me, but I didn't want to leave him. I was like a tired traveler who had finally come home. Tears ran down my face as I whispered, Please, Lord, don't send me back. I'm so tired of the noise, the pain, the brokenness. Let me stay here with you. For the first time, his sorrow lifted. A smile formed, a smile so gentle and vast it seemed to hold galaxies. My dear child, he said, every word heavy with love, your work is not done. I brought you here to see so you could go back and tell them. Tell them that I am weeping for what they are doing to each other. Tell them the war is not against flesh and blood, but against the darkness that feeds on their hatred. Tell them the only weapon that wins is love. I shook my head, begging like a child. Please don't send me back. I am with you always. The words pressed into me like fire. Then the light pulled away. The peace shattered. The silence broke into rushing sound. I felt myself falling back into pain, back into noise. The first thing I felt was fire in my chest. The first thing I heard was a scream, Rachel's scream. She's breathing. Oh my God, Mom, you're breathing. My eyes snapped open to blinding fluorescent light. Doctors and nurses crowded around. Machines beeped wildly. Rachel clutched my hand, tears streaming down her face. Mom, they said you were gone. You were gone for so long. Later, a doctor sat by my bed, shaking his head in disbelief. By every medical account, Mrs. Mitchell, you shouldn't be alive. You were gone far too long, and yet here you are, with no brain damage. We can't explain it, but I could. I am not a politician. I am not a preacher. I am just a grandmother from Ohio who died on her kitchen floor and was sent back with a message. Heaven is real, and it is watching us with a broken heart. The division tearing us apart is not political. It is spiritual. The poison is hatred, and it feeds darkness. Jesus didn't care about my political party, my opinions, or my arguments. He cared about my heart and the hearts of us all. He sent me back with one command: love. So I beg you, as someone given a second chance, when anger rises, stop, breathe, pray for the one you want to despise. Turn off the screen, look into your neighbor's eyes, and remember they are a child of God. Every drop of love heals. Every drop of forgiveness cleanses the poisoned river. Because heaven is real, Jesus is real, and right now, his heart is breaking.